Talking today about rules, right-of-way rules, and keeping yourself safe, because you can be right or you can be dead right. And I have a video here that I'm going to show you that will upset some people. I know that, and you're going to come back to me and you're going to tell me that the truck driver was right and had the right of way, and I'm going to tell you different. I'm going to contradict what you're thinking in saying that where the truck driver is essentially tailgating the other driver on the roadway and believing that he's right and trying to change lanes, and of course the guy is already upset. He's already in the anger stage of the, where you primal brain takes over, and it's 4-year-old and 27 lizards, and this is the problem, is that they're just stuck in this battle of who's right and who's wrong on the roadway, and nobody kind of lets up or nobody backs off to dissipate what's going on. So the truck driver instigated it. The truck driver was of the conviction that I have the right of way, I don't have to move, you're merging, you're the one that has to move over. And none of this is true. And this is, again, coming back to the fundamentals of smarter defensive driving. In keeping yourself safe, it's a matter of just changing lanes and slowing down and moving over. And if people say to me that, oh, I couldn't move over because there was too much traffic and those types of things, that's not true. And this definitely wasn't true in this instance because there wasn't that much traffic on the interstate. In addition to that, as the truck driver was approaching the on-ramp, it was clear as day that there was an overpass there, and there's off ramps and on ramps on either side of that overpass. And the driver could have said, oh, wait a minute, there's an overpass and there's an off ramp here. There's going to be an on ramp on the other side of the overpass. I'm just going to move over to protect myself and give myself as much space as possible. And the whole thing with absolutely no change in speed on the part of the truck driver could have been avoided. In addition to that, it would have kept everybody on the roadway would have been safe. The truck driver, because he or she was of the conviction that they were right, they endangered not only themselves, they endangered the son and the father in that pickup truck. Despite the anger of the father and his poor reaction, the truck driver has a responsibility, and you have a responsibility, not just truck drivers and professional drivers who drive commercial vehicles. We all have a responsibility to keep each other safe on the roadways, because we've talked about this previously. In the United States of America, 38,000 to 45,000 people a year are killed on American roadways every 18 months. So it's 38,000 a year. It's about 45,000 every 18 months. More people are killed in 18 months on American roads than the number of soldiers sent to war in the Vietnam conflict between 1963 and 1975. So a 12-year war killed fewer people than the number of people that are killed on American roads every 18 months. It's just an absolutely crazy statistic. These are the types of things that I'm talking about today in terms of you can be right or you can be dead right, and keep yourself safe. It's just a matter of letting off the throttle or changing lanes and recognizing those intersections on the interstate. And they are intersections, the on-ramps and off-ramps. Yes, it's not a conventional intersection where two roads cross. There's still traffic getting on, merging, and getting off the freeway, and you need to help other people out and keep other people safe on the roadways. Dead right driving. You can be right or you can be dead right. And I was talking about social driving and the hallmarks of social driving, where people believe that others should come to a complete stop at stop sign intersections. They should drive the posted speed limit. They should maintain a safe following distance. They should wait for pedestrians, not charging pedestrians. These are all the hallmarks of social driving, and it's not going to happen. You are not going to force other drivers, other road users to obey all the rules of the roadway, because people, after they get their license, participate in social driving. And what I want to do is to give you best practices for defensive driving. What can you do to significantly reduce your chances of being involved in a crash? In many instances, when somebody else does something goofy on the roadway, it's just a matter of taking your foot off the throttle and letting them go and have their crash somewhere else. But back to the video with the truck driver got locked in, and I can completely understand what that truck driver was thinking, because unfortunately when I was driving truck, I was not a good truck driver. And I had a motto when I was driving truck that once I got it wound up and I got it on cruise, as that truck driver was on 65 miles an hour, I will run over you before I take it off cruise. However, the truck driver didn't have to take the truck off cruise control, didn't have to slow down at 65 miles an hour. They just had to be more proactive in their driving, his or her driving. They just had to recognize and say, as I said, that there's an overpass. If there's an off-ramp, there's most likely going to be an on-ramp on the other side of the overpass. Therefore, I'm going to make sure that the left lane is clear, and I'm going to change lanes. I'm going to get past the on-ramp, let anybody merge, and then when it's safe to do so, I'm going to move back into the lane and carry on with my life. That's what should have happened. But the truck driver didn't, because not just that truck driver, but the truck driver and many other people believe that they're on the highway, they have the right of way, and the people merging, the vehicles that are merging, the drivers that are merging onto the highway have to give the right of way. And that is not best practices for defensive driving. So just giving it up a little bit, slowing down. And when I say slowing down, I'm not talking about slowing down 10 or 15 miles an hour. I'm talking about slowing down 3 or 4 miles an hour. Because if the person coming onto the highway is doing his or her job, then they're speeding up, you're slowing down 2 or 3 miles an hour, and it helps everybody out, and they can safely merge onto the interstate. Now, saying that, if you are merging out onto the interstate and there is a semi truck there on the highway that you're seeing, plan to merge in behind them. That way you don't have to get this super duper acceleration going up so that you can get safely in front of them, okay? Just plan to merge in behind them as a new driver, and that's going to keep you safe when merging out onto the highways. All right, couple of things to have a look at. Driving anxiety post-COVID. It's been a couple of years now, but people are still having anxiety. Corey will put that video up for you as well. Look at the video on fear and anxiety around driving. There's a lot more people than we would think who have anxiety and trepidation around driving. So have a look at those. And for new drivers, you just got your license, listen to the podcast. There's also the video on 5 tips for new drivers to reduce being involved in a crash in the first year, because newly licensed drivers are at high risk of being involved in a crash. Social driving is the one thing that unites us in the human race, regardless of religion, creed, politics. Most people who have a driver's license, most people who drive would agree with the statement, I'm a good driver. It's everybody else on the roadway that needs to change. And these goofy people are in my way and you're blocking my path. And they will tell you in no uncertain terms, by giving you the finger, flashing their lights, honking their horn, telling you you're number one, that you need to get out of their way. And as I've mentioned, the number one way that traffic and road users communicate with other people is speed relative to another road user, or speed relative to an intersection or other place where they potentially could turn, and space. How close are they to somebody else? Are they telling you that you need to hurry up and go? Yo, me first, exactly what Tim said. Yes, exactly. Big sister, I found you in search of CDL prep videos. My goal is to get my CDL. That is awesome, my friend. You're going to do it. All right. Drivers under the umbrella of social driving are retaliatory and reactionary. They're hoping on a wing and a prayer that they can react fast enough that they will avoid a crash. The problem with that is it is old school defensive driving training. It's from the 1970s, the 60s, the 70s, and well into the 1980s, where that was what defensive driving was. That we're going to react with the right skill to avoid being involved in a crash. Unfortunately, it doesn't work, because many times, as you know, we get distracted when we're driving, and driving is way more distracting now. New cars with telematic screens in them, and now we have our phones, and we can do all kinds of things with social media. There's 75 bazillion billboards out and distracting things along the roadway, and we're easily distracted, and there's far more traffic on our roadways now. So if you think that you are going to react in time to something that potentially could happen, it's eventually going to catch up with you. And as we know, as traffic safety professionals, the average person crashes 3 or 4 times in a driving career. In other words, they go along for 15 or 17 years before they have a crash. So for a very long period of time, they think that what they're doing is safe, until one day it comes back to bite them in the ass. and it will. And I'm working on a case right now with a truck driver that was comfortable with pulling over on the side of the interstate and felt that pulling over on the left side of the interstate, in fact, was safer than pulling over on the right side of the interstate, despite all the move over laws that have been enacted in the last 2 decades, that this is safe pulling over on the side of the interstate. Finally did it, and somebody rear-ended him. So it finally caught up to him, even though he considered that it was safe, and it wasn't. So drivers are reactionary. They follow too close to other traffic. They don't maintain their following distance. They stop right on the up on the bumper of traffic that is stopped, and they are too close to vulnerable road users, to pedestrians, to cyclists, and there is nothing that raises my ire quicker than walking across the roadway and a left-hand turning vehicle noses right into me and they're like 3 feet away from me. Like I said, my anger goes from 0 to jail time in no time at all. That's what happens. Okay, they're retaliatory. They follow too close. They stop too close to you. They give you the finger. They honk the horn. They flash their lights. They tailgate. They say something bad about your mother. Drivers will police others on the roadway. And how many times have you heard a driver driving and they're like, did you get your license out of a Cracker Jack box? And I have to say that I too am guilty of that, where I police other drivers on the roadway. And my pet peeve when driving is others that are going too slow. Oh my God, it's like, could you at least drive the posted speed limit? That just drives me crazy. And my new pet peeve of other drivers is on the weekend and they're in a school zone and they insist on reducing their speed to what they think is, 20 kilometers an hour in the school speed zone. It's actually 30 kilometers an hour, 20 miles an hour. But it just drives me crazy. And we have a high school here just around the corner from where I live. And there's no school speed zone past that high school. But everybody drives past it and they slow down to 20 miles an hour thinking that there's a speed zone, when in fact there is not a speed zone. Okay, merging, as we talked about with the video at the beginning of the presentation, that merging gets people's anger and people believe that they are right to the point where they will commit themselves to being dead right, as the truck driver did. And zipper merging, we talk about zipper merging, and I am convinced that the more that I talk about zipper merging, that most people think they know what zipper merging is. Like 80% of people, you talk to them and they're like, oh yeah, I know how to zipper merge, blah, blah, blah. And you dig in a little bit more and you ask a few more questions, and then you realize you don't know what zipper merging is at all. So if most people don't know what zipper merging is conceptually, and you look at all the animated models on the internet and they're all cars and doing the proper thing with the zipper merge, well, that works fine. And as other smart drivers have commented, you throw a couple of trucks into that and a motorcycle and some pickup trucks pulling trailers and whatnot, and the zipper merge just completely implodes and it doesn't work. And you're giving up space and getting right to the choke point, giving up all your space, and then hoping on a wing and a prayer that the other person in the other vehicle is going to slow down and give you space and be able to manage that task while moving at speed and not being upset that traffic is moving slowly and that they're doing construction and it's construction season and they're like, oh my God, do we have to tear up yet another road and I'm never going to get to where I'm going, and they're already late. So they're upset and they're not going to let you in. Know that when you are merging, the onus of responsibility is on the merging driver. It is on the merging driver, but it is everybody's responsibility, because driving is a social activity. It is everybody's responsibility to stay safe and keep others on the roadway safe. Definitions of speeding, and how are we policing other people when they're going too slow on the roadway and you're rolling your eyes and you're like, oh my, could we go faster? Please. Driving faster than the traffic flow. And as my good friend Tim says, Drive Smart BC, that, the nail that's sticking up is the one that's going to get hammered. So if you're going down the roadway and you're going faster than traffic flow, you're the one that's probably going to get the speeding ticket. Faster than me, another definition of speeding. And then the one that is the most complicated and ties into what I talk about as being the leading contributing factor of car crashes, is the mismanagement of speed and space. Faster than conditions of the roadway will allow. And I had a conversation with a smart driver a little while back talking about that most people drive too fast for conditions of the roadway. But that is amorphous. There's your big word for the day, which means it's unclear about the definitions of that, because for one driver in a certain set of conditions, they feel perfectly safe driving at 50 miles an hour, and another driver will not feel safe at all driving 30 miles an hour in the same road conditions. It depends on driving ability, skill, and confidence. So that is a difficult definition of speeding. My friend Tim says, my teaching experience in Elder College showed me that many experienced drivers are only qualified to say that because of time behind the wheel. They lack basic skills. And I would 100% concur with what you just said, Tim. The other thing on that note, Tim, it was the same thing. There's a police officer that I trained jiu-jitsu with, and him and I are really good mates. And he was talking about his driveway, and obviously he lives on an acreage here, and he was talking about how difficult his driveway was to kind of get up in the wintertime. And I said, well, you could always try reversing up, because sometimes that will get you better traction to get up the driveway. And he goes, oh, I couldn't do that. He says, it's too twisty and turny and uphill. And he just said, I'm not very good at backing up. So as you just said, they think that because they've been driving for 20 years and because all the other traffic on the roadway has been avoiding them for 20 years, that they're a good driver. Exactly. All right. Driving is emotional. Drivers are reactionary and retaliatory. They crowd other drivers. They honk. They give them the finger. There's displays of road rage as that video. And to think that that driver, that truck driver, not only was upset with the merging driver that didn't merge in behind him, but he was so angry that he made a video and put text on it and put it on YouTube for the world to see, so that he was vindicated. Look what happened to me. This guy is wrong, right? And we draw lines in the sand. I'm right, you're wrong. Driving is a battleground, and I'm right, and I'm gonna win. And if you're going to keep yourself safe and you're going to significantly reduce your chances of being involved in a crash, it can't be I'm right, you're wrong. It has to be we're all going to get along, and we're going to do the best that we can to keep people safe. Not only myself and my family, but I'm going to keep others on the roadway safe as well. And we need to have calm awareness. Okay, we need to try and move away from the emotional. We can still have the emotional. I still have the emotional. But there's one thing that I will not do when I'm driving, and that is to give up that space in front of my vehicle, that 3 to 4 second following distance, stopping back in traffic, one vehicle length, and mapping and tracking road users and giving space at merge lanes on freeways. Tim says, one driving course I took required slaloming through cones backwards. You lost points for touching cones. I'm sure a lot of people really were challenged by that exercise of slaloming backwards through cones in a car, because backing up, reversing is one of the most difficult skills for drivers. And one of my favorite new driver exercises is to set up 2 cones in a parking lot and to get them to do forward and reverse figure eights. Right-of-way rules and the reasons that drivers are involved in crashes is that following too close is number 1. Failing to give the right-of-way. I'm right, you're wrong. Okay, keep that in mind when you're driving. Okay, good luck on your driver's test. And remember, pick the best answer, not necessarily the right answer. All the best. Have a great night. Bye.